Legio Defensor is an ancient legion that is speculated to predate the Age of Strife. Though its history is unknown, what is known is the legion predates the Imperium of Man under the leadership of the Emperor. The legion's colors are primarily white, green, and black. The armor panels of the engines are commonly trimmed in frames of gold. Legio Defensor commonly went to war displaying one of two sigils, or both. The first became known as the Emperor's Divine Crown after unification. However, its different color sides originally represented the two sons of Defensor's home forge world. The second banner is that of the stag. This pays tribute to a creature in the forge's early colonization. The local populace in the early forge days regarded the stag as a representation of a god and held it in high regard when witnessed. The Legio was commonly referred to as the Novaguard. Though no firm explanation exists of where this moniker originated, I would speculate it was inspired by the Legion's battle reputation. Defensor was known for their extremely aggressive initial salvos, and a fierce commitment to the Emperor of Mankind. This assault, like a supernova, burns very brightly at first, but returns to normal intensity, figurative of an all-out weapons barrage returning to standard battle tactics. The Legio also took to the field of battle as a righteous defender and guardian of mankind. The Legio took its first steps somewhere in the Age of Strife on the Forge of Saderis. Located within the Segmentum Obscurus, the forge would eventually hold a respectable reputation within the Imperium. The planet itself was orbited by 3 moons tidally locked in their orbit. The moons themselves would be turned into 3 individual cathedrals dedicated to the machine god, the Omnissiah. Each of these moons would serve as a beacon of religious devotion to the forge below and their populace. The moons themselves were tracked and plotted by a specific sect of tech magi who would study and interpret their patterns as the will of the machine god to the laborers below. These lectures were done through lumen displays found in a majority of the Manufactorum facilities. The planet's religion and norms were so tied to the moons that each moon broadcast separately, and the broadcasting moon would determine the shift length of the industrial laborers known as devotional cycles. These laborers and serfs worked intently to the devotional broadcasts, furthering the progress and might of the Forge Saderis. The religion of the Forge and the devotional broadcasts would spark an unexpected necessity for Legio Defensor's presence. The Forge would find itself in great need of the Legion's strength and zealous nature. The first time a lunar broadcast disruption occurred was when an unknown broadcast overtook the signal of the devotional service. This resulted in a 6 solar week shutdown of the cathedral moon arrays and broadcasting system. All these efforts were done to allow the tech priests time to try and ascertain the meaning of this celestial disruption through debate. The second time a devotional service was disrupted, it would result in horrific damage to the devoted servants of the Omnissiah. Legio Defensor would be sorely tested in an effort to amend the Forge's spiritual situation. The second devotional disruption was a delay of 14.5 seconds in the lunar broadcast from not one, but all 3 moon cathedrals, the empty static of which was too much for the populace to bear. This resulted in mass hysteria on the surface of Saderis, where workers openly rioted through upheaval, thinking this was a direct sign of the Omnissiah's displeasure with their world's labors. The scar in spiritual comfort would spark a 72-year civil war on the Forge, where the planet would call on Legio Defensor to hold the peace and oppress where possible. Defensor would hold its populace hostage, with a message to adhere to cultural norms or face the Omnissiah's wrath. Eventually, peace would be restored under the watchful rhetoric of Legio Defensor. When the 914th Expeditionary Fleet rediscovered Saderis, the population was noted by the fleet as having an extraordinary, almost fanatical devotion to the Omnissiah. This culture outshone even the most devout Forge worlds. By contrast, those of Saderis were zealots of the Mechanicum in the early days of unification. The home of Defensor would willingly join the Imperium and help fuel the Great Crusade itself. During the Great Crusade, Defensor was absolute in its commitment to the Emperor as a manifestation of the Machine God and their home forge's mythical stag. Over the Great Crusade, Defensor worked extensively with the Astartes Legion, the Word Bearers. In the Crusade, the Novaguard would raise entire worlds to demonstrate the unstoppable vision of the Emperor and mankind. Late in the Crusade, it was frequently documented Defensor would stride to battle blaring religious hymns and sermons from battle horns and war sirens. These audio assaults served multiple purposes. The blaring noise would motivate allies with a sense of righteousness, intimidate the enemy with a show of resolve, and strengthen the Legio's virtuous purpose. The Legio would become known for its vicious opening salvos, spoken of as righteous fire. When a recognized foe took to the field, the Novaguard would push, no matter the cost, to score the first hits. Defensor also became known for stubbornly not giving ground, believing in their higher purpose. The Emperor was not a supporter of religion. In fact, he went out of his way to abolish all religions in favor of the imperial truth. The least favorable of the Emperor's gaze were the religions built around himself as a god or divine being. The Word-Bearers Astartes Legion were known as venerating the Emperor as a god and built a religion around their very beliefs, strengthening and teaching these beliefs to those they would conquer during the Great Crusade. This religion or cult gained foundation within the book called the Lectitio Divisionatus, written by the Word-Bearers Legion's Primarch, Logar Aurelian himself. In an act of final frustration to silence these religious beliefs, the Emperor took to the planet of Kur with a retinue of loyal forces, notably the Adeptus Custodes and the Ultramarines Legion, containing Primarch Rabute Guilliman. This journey would end in the city of Monarchia, a place of cathedrals and worship around the Emperor himself being burned to the ground. An act even the most zealous of the Word-Bearers could not misinterpret. After the embarrassment to the Legion was complete, it remained unquestioned the Imperium did not condone nor accept the Word-Bearers' acts of devotion. After the Word-Bearers' censor of spiritual belief on Kur, the Forge Saderis also made moves of their own. Defensor's home planet had their support of the Word-Bearers across the galaxy redeployed away from the Astartes positions. This was done under the falsehood of strengthening the Forge world's positions, where they were weak, instead of the political or spiritual act it actually was. When the Horus heresy broke loose and set the galaxy ablaze, the Forge of Saderis openly said the War Master Horus sought to defeat the Emperor and take godhood for himself. The Princeps of Defensor spread propaganda across the Forge, stating the heresy was a war for the very soul of mankind. This belief was made manifest and solidified when the appearance of warp spawn started appearing on the battlefields of the heresy. Defensor would side with the Imperium and punish their once strong allies, the Word-Bearers, on the battlefield. The Princeps of Defensor were a dedicated and deeply sanctimonious group. Predating unification with the Imperium, they already held fanatical beliefs in the Machine God. They strode to battle with an unfeathered presence of self-righteousness. The Princeps broadcast their religious views, believing their actions served a higher purpose, as if the hand of the Omnissiah itself. It's unknown exactly when the cult teachings of the Lectitio Divisionatus entered the Legion as faith or gospel. This was likely during the Legion's many years of service attached to the Word-Bearers' fleets during the Great Crusade. Already devout followers of the machine, the Princeps of Defensor were easy converts to the Word-Bearers' philosophy. Many among their ranks quickly began praising the Emperor as a god. After the events of Monarchia, and the forces of Defensor being withdrawn from Word-Bearer support by Saderis, the Forge World would take additional actions on the Titan Legion itself. Shielded from the eyes of the Imperium, known Lectitio Divisionatus followers were disciplined and redistributed as individuals to other Defensor battle groups. It was the hopes of Saderis this would quell and suppress the cult following of the Princeps within Defensor ranks. This action, however, had the complete opposite effect. Rather than stifling the religion around the Emperor and the teachings of the Word-Bearer, the cult beliefs only spread further among the Legion. It was common practice for Defensor Princeps to pray before battle. The crews of Novaguard Titans would frequently decorate their battle positions within the Titans' holds with religious icons and wards of faith. During the Horus Heresy, there were several audio logs of Defensor Princeps citing the Emperor as a divine being. It was clear the teachings of the Lectitio Divisionatus had only deepened, reinforcing the Legion's perceived holy war. In strength, Legio Defensor was classed by Mars as a Secundus grade Legio, with around 136 active god engines. Given Defensor's overwhelming firepower tactics, it's unsurprising to learn most of the Legio was Warlord and Warbringer Titans. Approximately 2/3 of the Legion's strength were Warlord Titans alone. The remainder was a mix of all the other classes. The Legio did contain at least one Imperator-class heavy Titan. This Titan was retrofitted heavily to be a walking cathedral of belief. What few Scout Titans the Legio did field showed a heavy preference towards purifying plasma and flame weaponry. A rough breakdown of the Legion's Titans is as follows. Some notable engagements and campaigns for Legio Defensor include the upheaval of Saderis, the Terran Suppression, and the Beta Garmin campaign as a whole. This became known as the Titan Death and featured multiple Legio Defensor engagements. In particular, the Hive War for Beta Garmin, the War of the Outer Worlds, a Hole in the Sky, and the Needle Breaks. Legio Defensor was a sledgehammer of the Imperium, whose religious beliefs helped carry them through war. Given the Legion's close relationship with the Word-Bearers Astartes, it's almost shocking they did not turn against the Emperor and mankind. I hope you enjoyed this brief look at the Novaguard. I'll see you on our next lore video for Adeptus Titanicus.